Welcome to the 11th chapter of the book of First Chronicles. David is anointed king. The last chapter we saw Saul and Jonathan being put to death in battle. Now, at that time, David was marauding the southern part of Judah towards the Gaza area and taking all the goods and dividing them between all the tribes in Israel, became a very popular person. And it begins, and every man of Israel gathered together to David in Hebron, which is today it's in the West Bank under the Palestinian control. And they were saying, "Behold, we are of your bones and of your flesh." We're related. And indeed, yesterday, the third day before, in Saul being king, you were the one bringing in and leading out Israel. You were taking care of us. Basically, he was going to war. And the Lord your God said to you, "You tend my people Israel, for you shall be for leader over my people Israel." So they see that they know that God said for him to tend. 4165, tending my people. I found this is an interesting word. Do a little study. It says, first, who is to tend? The shepherds were supposedly the priesthood of Israel and the leaders. And in Ezekiel it says, "Thus says the Lord, behold, I am against the shepherds, and I will require my sheep from out of their hands, and I will turn them away to not tend my sheep. And the shepherds shall not graze them any longer, and I shall rescue my sheep from out of their mouth, and they will not be themselves any longer for a thing devoured." I'm getting this out of the Apostolic Bible app, Apostolic Bible Apostolic Bible Polyglot, app.com, and you can go through it, and I did a word study on the number, and it shows all these different places. Put together this word study. You can do the same thing. Just go to the app and find a word that you want to do and teach people if you're in the leadership. Then God has set up shepherds according to his heart. It says that in Jeremiah there, "And I will anoint to you shepherds according to my heart, and they shall tend you tending with a higher knowledge." And hopefully the tending of the people with the leadership of the churches today is that way, but it certainly is not always. But then he's going to have a leading shepherd, he says. And a shepherd as a shepherd he shall tend the flock, and his arm shall gather the lambs, and he shall comfort the ones in the womb, having one in the womb. So the shepherd takes care of the flock, and it's close to them. Now, Jesus goes into this, the good shepherd, I think it's in the book of John, how the hireling flees, but the shepherd who cares for them protects them from the marauding animals and feeds them, helps them when they're sick, and gathers them together so they don't run away, and all sorts of things that a shepherd does. And then it says in Matthew, "And you, Bethlehem, land of Judea, are not at all least in the governs of Judea, for from out of you shall come forth one leading, who shall tend my people Israel." So tending. So this is Jesus, of course, a prophecy, and it's a quotation, actually. And then it says, Revelations, for the Lamb in the midst of the throne shall tend them, and he shall guide them unto springs of waters of life, and God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. This is what Jesus will do and has done and continues to do it, but he allows shepherds to take over being shepherds over the flock, which is, I believe, would be the church. And then in John, he says to him, that is Simon Peter, a second time, Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me? He says to him, yes, O Lord, you know that I'm fond of you. And Jesus says to him, tend my sheep. I wonder if the so-called man that's sitting on the throne of Peter in Rome is tending the sheep, or is he the one that is, I'm not going to make a value judgment, but you can see if he's doing what things of God would have a shepherd to do. Take heed then to yourselves and to all the flock in which the Holy Spirit placed you as overseers to tend the assembly, the church of God, which he procured through his own blood. So the teaching is to these, whoever of you out there that is a shepherd, pastor, they call them pastors now. I'm not exactly sure where they come up with a pastor. Maybe there's a tie to a shepherd, but the pastors of churches and so forth need to be doing the things that a shepherd would do, not just taking money and or fame and fortune and being away from the people, but being active, taking them in his arms. This is what Jesus did. And it says then in 1 Peter, tend the flock of God among you, overseeing, not by compelling, but voluntarily, nor sordidly, but eagerly. This is instructions to the shepherds. But in the future, there will be a shepherd with a rod of iron. It says, and from out of his mouth goes forth a double-edged, sharp broadsword, that with it he should strike the nations, and he shall tend them with a rod of iron. And he treads the wine vat of the wine of the rage of the wrath of God Almighty. And then again, and he shall tend them with a rod of iron, as the vessels made of clay shall be broken, as I also have received from my Father. This is the future. It's the shepherd. If sheep want to run away or do bad, then he is going to tend them not with care, but with a rod of iron. There was a story I read about how this man was on a guided tour in Israel, and he was going through all this about a shepherd, and the shepherd leads the flock and puts food behind his hand, behind his back, and the sheep come there and nibble on it, and they all follow the shepherd. And Jesus mentions that about following the shepherd. So as this man is telling the group in the bus about that, he looks out the window, and they said, hey, look at that shepherd, he's whipping, he's beating the sheep, and they're in front of him and not behind him, like you said. And he looks, and I've never seen anything like that. Pull over. So they pull the bus over, and he runs over to the man, and he says, I just telling the people how the shepherd follows, the sheep follow the shepherd, and he feeds them, and here you're whipping them. And he looks, and he says, shepherd, I'm not the shepherd, I'm the butcher. This is what we don't want. But we will have a God into the eon tending us, which is what we do want. And it says, for this is our God into the eon and into the eon of the eons, and he shall tend us into the eons. God will always tend us, take care of us, feed us, guide us, keep us from going out. Wonderful promise that we have here. And it continues, and the Lord said, your God said to you, you tend my people Israel, and you shall be leader over my people Israel. So David was. And all the elders of Israel came to the king in Hebron. And King David ordained with them a covenant in Hebron before the Lord, and they anointed David for king over Israel, poured oil on his head, according to the word of the Lord, through the hand of Samuel, which it doesn't mention that here in this book. You have to go back into, I think, 2 Samuel, I believe. And King David and all Israel went unto Jerusalem. Now, this could have been a period of time have passed here. This is Yevus. And the Yevus say the Jebusites were there dwelling in the land. And the ones dwelling Yevus said to David, "You shall not enter here." And David was first to take the citadel of Sion, a place in Jerusalem, Zion. We hear that word so many times. This is the city of David. And David said, "Oh, anyone beating the Jebusites at first, he will be as a ruler and as a commandant." And Joab, son of Zeruiah, ascended against them at first, and he became as a ruler. He was a general from then on, the number 2 man to David, outside of his family. And David stayed in the citadel. Because of this, he called it City of David. And he built the city round about from the acrobat, the height, and unto the Kiklu circuit, wherever these are. And Joab procured the rest of the city. And David went, going and being magnified, and the Lord Almighty was with him. And these are the rulers of the mighty ones who were with David, growing strong with him in this kingdom, with all Israel, to give him reign, according to the word of the Lord over Israel. Now we're going to go back into some more names. Throughout this book, the names are scattered and lists of names. So not as much as the first 9 chapters, but there are still some. And this is the number of the mighty ones of David. Va'an, son Achamoni, first of the 30, proton, arithmetic. This one unsheathed his broadsword upon 300 slain. You can add that to your English derivatives book. We've had it before. Traumatize, at one time. And after him, Eleazar, son of Dodai, the Ahohi. This one was among the 3 mighty ones. This one was with David in Phas Damin. And the Philistines were gathered together there for war, and there was a portion of a field full of barley. And the people fled from the face of the Philistines. And he stood in the midst of the portion and delivered it, and struck the Philistines. Delivered it. Now, this word here is used many places in the King James as saved it, salvation. But it's saved and to save and salvation. I don't use that with these words because it's a done deal with being saved. It's like you're drowning and somebody threw you a life preserver. You're saved, and that's it. It's a one-time thing. But here you can see he delivered it. It's a something that happened. It's a action verb over a period of time. So therefore, I use the word deliver. I think it's better. We see it in other places where it's an ongoing thing. Here, it's not so much. It's sort of like he delivered us. That's the final part of it. But it continues, and he struck the Philistines, and struck the Philistines. And the Lord performed a great soterion, a deliverance, and there we have, they would have salvation probably in the King James. Has nothing to do with being saved, going to heaven, that type of a thing. It was a deliverance from being defeated in battle. And there went down 3 from out of the 30 rulers to the rock to David in the cave of Adullam. Now, the period of time here is over a longer period of time. This is, I believe, when David was hiding from Saul. And he's mentioning who his main military men were. And the camp of the Philistines pitched in the valley of the Giganton, the giants. We have gigantic coming from that, Gigan. And David was then in the citadel, and the garrison of the Philistines was in Bethlehem. And David desired, and he said, "Oh, who will give me a drink of water from out of the well at Bethlehem?" The one at the gate. And the 3 tore up the camp of the Philistines and drew water from out of the well of Bethlehem, which was at the gate, and they took it and came to David. And David wanted not to drink it. Why? He gave it as a libation to the Lord, and he said, "Kindness to me, O Lord, to do this thing. Shall I drink blood of these men with their lives?" They went out and put their lives up for it. So he dedicated it to the Lord. "For with their lives they brought it, and I do not want to drink it." These things the 3 mighty men did. And Abishai, the brother of Joab, this one was ruler of the 3. That was my phone telling me to exercise. I forgot to turn it off. And Avasai, the brother of Joab, this one was the ruler of the 3. This one, these we hear about more in this chapter. This one unsheathed the broadsword against 300 slain at one time. Now, he could have been leading other people. This way it's saying here, I doubt if he could kill 300 men. This one was onomastos. The onoma is a name. He's had a name famous among the other 3. Of the 3, he was more honorable above the 2, and became to them as a ruler, but he arrived not unto the first 3. And Phinehas, son of Eothai, the son of a mighty man, many were his works, from Kabsael, he struck the 2 lion-like ones of Moab, Ariel, Ariel, means a lion-like one. It's a Hebrew word that's been transliterated into Greek. Doesn't make any sense in Greek, but it does in Hebrew. Ariel. There was a ruler of Israel, 20 years ago, Ariel Sharon, lion-like one of Sharon. Also, this one went down and struck the Leonta, the lion, in the pit in the day of snow. And this one struck the Egyptian man, a man 5 cubits tall. It's 7.5 inches. 7 feet 5 inches. He would have done well in the NBA. And in the hand of the Egyptian, that's the National Basketball Association, sorry. Right now they're going tonight, right at this time in 2021, they're having the championship game to find out who is going to be the champion college national champion. And interestingly, both of the teams that have made it to the top are both, one is a Roman Catholic university and the other is a Baptist. So you have the Protestants and the Catholics fighting it out. And the Catholic school has 2 people over 7 foot and 2 or 3 more around 6'10". So 7'5", there are still people that are that tall, I'm sure. And in the hand of the Egyptian man was a spear as the beam of a loom of one weaving. It must have been large. And Phinehas went against him with a rod, and he removed the spear from the hand of the Egyptian, got it out of his hand somehow, and killed him by his spear, sort of like David with hitting them with the rock, and then taking his head off with Goliath's sword. These things Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, did, and to this one was a name among the three mighty ones. He was honored above the 30, but arrived not unto the first three. And David placed him over his family as some type of a Praetorian guard of the royalty. And the mighty ones of power, Asael, brother of Joab, Elianah, son of Dodi, from Bethlehem, Samoth, the Arori, Helis, the Pheloni, Eras, son of Achis, the Thecoites, Abiezer, the Anathothetes, Sobokai, the Usathi, Elah, the Akahi, Mari, the Neotafi, Alad, son of Vanah, the Netophathi, Ithai, son of Revai, from Gavaath, sons Veniamin, Vanaiah, the Pharathoni, Uri from Nakali, Gaas, Aviel, the Aravathi, Asmoth, the Vacharumi, Elivah, the Salavoni, sons of Asom, the Guni, Ionathan, son of Sagay, the Arori, Ahiam, son of Zakhar, the Arari, Eliphal, son Ur, Afar, the Mehorathi, Ahia, the Pheloni, Ezri, the Hermeli, Narai, the son of Asavai, Eoel, Adelphos of Nathan, Ma'avar, son of Agiri, Selik, the Amarani, Narai, the Virothi, are carrying his weapons of Joab, son of Zeruiah, the general. Ira, the Eathri, Garev, the Eathri, Urias, the Hethi, that's Uriah the Hittite. He was the husband of Bathsheba, who David sent to the front and had Joab put him in a place that he would be killed. So David could take Bathsheba for a wife because she was pregnant by David. Savad, son of Alai, Adinah, son of Zizah, the Ruvini, Archon to Reuven, a ruler, and with him 30. Anan, the son of Maachah, and Josaphat, the Mathani, Ozias, the Estharothi, Sama, and Iael, sons Hotham, the Arari, Eatheel, son of Samari, and Eoha, his brother, the Thosi, Eliel, the Maoim, and Irivai, and Eosaiah, the sons of Elnaan, and Eatham, the Moavites, Eliel, and Ovid, and Easicil, the Masavia. Whew, more names. And I think we're still going to get a little bit more here in chapter 12. The force, the army, basically gathers with David in Ziklag, And we'll find out about this in our next video seminar, Chapter 12. Hope you'll join us. Till then, God bless.